Greetings, family. I'm coming before you today because I need your help. I am on a spiritual journey to reclaim my God-given power so that I can more fully and authentically walk in my purpose. And the next step in my spiritual development that will allow me to do this is a trip that I plan to take to Ghana in March. One of my spiritual teachers is taking a group of us to Ghana in order to study with the elders of the Dagomar people so that we can learn African spiritual healing technologies that will allow us to heal our communities. But before I tell you what it is that I need from you, I want to give you a little bit of background on why this trip is important to me and why it is so necessary for me. You see, there's a story that I've been telling myself practically all my life. And that story is that I am a victim. Now, granted, there are some things that have happened to me over the years that would justify my labeling myself as a victim. When I was a child growing up, I was a victim of neglect. I was a victim of incest. And in my adulthood, I was a victim of rape, not once, but twice. And as a result of those experiences, I became a victim of drug abuse and alcohol abuse. And as a result of that, I became a victim of depression and PTSD. And in telling that story, after a while, it no longer became a story, it became a place where I lived. And I call that place the victimhood. Now, the victimhood in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, because for me, it became a place of safety. It was a place that I could retreat to when the cares of the world, when the experiences that I had became overwhelming to me. It was a place that I could retreat to keep myself sane and to keep from committing suicide. But see, the problem came in is when I decided to take up residence in the victimhood. The victimhood then became a place of excuses. It became a place of I can't do it. A place of low energy, a place of let other people do it. And after a while, the victimhood became comfortable for me. It became a place that was so familiar to me that I did not want to leave it. And the only thing that saved me from being a casualty of the victimhood was the spark of divinity that's buried deep inside of me. Now, God in God's infinite wisdom placed inside of each and every one of us at the moment of our creation a spark of divinity. And this spark of divinity is what allows us to access our power. It allows us to walk in the fullness of our purpose. And although that spark cannot die, it can burn so low that it allows us to be content with living life at the lowest possible level and living way below our potential. But it was this spark of divinity that allowed me to take trips out of the victimhood into a place that I call the Garden of Eden. Now, the Garden of Eden for me is a place where my true power lies. It is a place of happiness, a place of doing, a place of harmony, of balance, of creativity. And as I began to mature spiritually, I began to take more and more frequent trips into the Garden of Eden. But I was still living in the victimhood. So whenever the world got to be too much for me, whenever people were overwhelming, whenever people were difficult for me, whenever the responsibility of using my power became too great for me, I would retreat back into the victimhood. And it seemed that every time I took one step forward, I would take two steps backwards. Now, granted, I was doing some good things on my trips over into the Garden of Eden, and I was even having some impact on people. But I felt that the sphere of my influence or the ripple effect of the good works that I was doing was not wide enough. And there was always this nagging feeling inside of me that I could do more. So around this time, that was when I discovered African spiritual technologies. And I began to read more and more about these technologies, and eventually I began to practice them. And I began to practice them through things like divinations and rituals and calling on the power of my ancestors. And doing these things, caused a shift to take place in me, a mind shift that was so powerful that I knew that I could no longer live in the victimhood. It's time now for me to come out of the victimhood and to take up permanent residence in the Garden of Eden. And this is where you come in. In order for me to build my house in the Garden of Eden, the next step on my spiritual journey is for me to take this trip to Ghana. And so what I would like for you to do is to go to the place on this page where there is a contribute button. And I want you to click on that button, and I want you to give generously to my cause to help fund my trip to Ghana. I would like for you to share this page with someone else and encourage them to also donate to my cause. And I will keep you all informed on what I'm doing every step of the way in this process. So again, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your generous donations. Ashe.